they came back. And your heart just did that thing again. That dangerous, hopeful, stupid thing where it forgot every single time they disappeared without a word. Every single time you were left wondering what you did wrong. Every single time the silence felt like it was eating you alive. And now they are standing right in front of you, or maybe in your messages, or maybe just showing up in small ways, and you feel that pull, that magnetic, irrational, deeply human pull towards someone who has consistently shown you that being close to them comes with a price, and that price is your peace. But here is what nobody tells you when an avoidant comes back. Most people will tell you to run, or they will tell you to take them back. And both of those answers are too simple for something this complicated. Because what you actually need to do right now is something different, something more strategic, something that protects you whether you decide to stay or whether you decide to go. There are 4 things you need to do when an avoidant comes back to you. And if you get these 4 things right, you will never again be at the mercy of someone else's inability to be emotionally present. Stay with me because this changes everything. Before we go further, if this is speaking to something real that you are carrying right now, drop the word returned in the comments. Just that one word. I want to know how many of you are dealing with this exact situation right now, because you are not alone in this and you need to know that. Let us start at the beginning, because you cannot understand what to do when an avoidant comes back unless you understand why they left in the first place. And I mean really understand it, not the surface level stuff, the deep uncomfortable truth of it. Avoidant attachment does not develop in a vacuum. It develops in childhood. It develops when a child learns, sometimes through very direct, painful experiences, that needing other people is dangerous. That vulnerability gets punished. That the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally will either overwhelm you with their own needs or pull away when you show yours. So the child does the only logical thing a child can do in that situation. They learn to need less. They learn to want less. They learn to become self-sufficient in a way that actually looks really healthy from the outside. They become the person who does not need anyone, the person who is fine, always fine. And then they grow up and they meet you, and something happens, something cracks open, because you are warm and you are present and you actually care. And for a moment, maybe even for a long time, they let themselves move toward you, and it feels incredible to them. It feels like finally something real. And it feels incredible to you too, because when an avoidant lets you in, when they actually choose closeness, it feels like winning something rare. But then something shifts. It is almost never a dramatic moment. It is usually quiet and internal and invisible to you. They start to feel the closeness as a threat. Their nervous system, which has been wired since childhood to treat intimacy as dangerous, starts sending alarm signals. Get away. This is too much. You are losing yourself. You need to protect yourself. And they listen to that nervous system because they always have. Because that nervous system has always kept them safe. Even when it is wrong, even when you are not actually a threat, it screams at them anyway, so they pull away. Sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. Sometimes with a fight, sometimes with silence. Sometimes with excuses that do not quite make sense. And you are left standing there holding the relationship you thought you both were building, completely alone. And the worst part is not even the distance. The worst part is the confusion. Because they did not leave because they stopped caring. Most of the time, avoidants care deeply. Deeply and desperately and quietly in ways they cannot even articulate to themselves. They leave because caring feels like losing. And they cannot tolerate that feeling for long before every instinct they have tells them to escape. So they leave, and then time passes, and the threat feels smaller, and they miss you, and they come back. This is the cycle. And understanding this cycle is not about feeling sorry for them. It is about being clear-eyed about what you are actually dealing with. Because clarity is the first thing you need before you can do anything else. Now let us talk about the 4 things. The first thing you need to do when an avoidant comes back is to pause before you respond. And I know how hard that is. I know that everything in you wants to respond immediately. Whether that response is relief and joy and rushing toward them, or whether it is anger and hurt and every feeling you swallowed while they were gone, the impulse to respond immediately is almost overwhelming. And that impulse is exactly why you need to pause. Here is what happens in your nervous system when an avoidant comes back. If you have anxious attachment tendencies, which many people who are drawn to avoidance do have, your system lights up like a Christmas tree. The person you were bonded to has returned. The threat of abandonment that was keeping your system in constant low-grade alarm is suddenly gone. And your nervous system floods with relief that actually feels like love. It feels like confirmation that you were right to hold on. It feels like proof that they do care. But that feeling is your nervous system calming down from a threat. It is not necessarily information about what the right choice is. And if you respond from that flooded place, you will make decisions from a state of relief rather than a state of wisdom. And those decisions almost never serve you, so you pause. Not to play games, not to punish them, not to manufacture distance or seem more attractive through unavailability. You pause because you need to get out of the reactive state and into the thinking state. You need to let your nervous system settle enough that you can actually access what you know, what you want, and what you need. The pause does not have to be dramatic. It does not have to be days or weeks. Sometimes it is a few hours. Sometimes it is overnight. Sometimes you simply say, I hear that you want to reconnect. I need a little time to think about what I want. And then you actually take that time. During the pause, you ask yourself real questions. Not the questions your anxious heart wants to ask. Like, why did they come back, and does this mean they love me, and is this going to be different this time? Those questions feel urgent, but they are not actually the most important questions. The most important questions are about you. What do I actually want from this relationship? What did I need that I was not getting? Has anything actually changed? What would need to be different for this to be healthy for me? What am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? These questions are harder than they sound because when someone we are attached to comes back, our brain starts immediately working to justify taking them back. It finds all the evidence that they changed. It minimizes the memories of the pain. It rewrites the history in a softer light. This is not a character flaw. This is how attachment works. This is literally your brain trying to restore the bond it formed. So you have to be deliberate about creating the space to see clearly. The pause is that space. The second thing you need to do when an avoidant comes back is to look for change, not just words. Avoidants are often not great with words. Many of them actually struggle to articulate their feelings, their needs, their intentions. But when they come back, when they want reconnection, some of them will say all the right things. They will tell you they missed you. They will tell you they realize what they lost. They will tell you things will be different. And some of them mean it with every fiber of their being as they say it. But meaning it and being capable of it are two different things. This is not about doubting them or punishing them or going into the relationship with one foot out the door. This is about understanding that change, real change, requires awareness and effort and usually some kind of support, therapy, personal growth work, real reckoning with the patterns that led to the disconnection. And that work leaves evidence. It shows up in behavior, not just in words spoken in the vulnerability of wanting to reconnect. So what does change actually look like in an avoidant? It looks like them being able to name their feelings, not perfectly, not all the time, but with more consistency than before. It looks like them being able to tolerate a conflict without shutting down or disappearing. It looks like them reaching toward you when things get hard instead of retreating. It looks like them acknowledging, at least to some degree, how their behavior affected you. Not a perfect apology, not a dramatic reckoning, but some real acknowledgement that what happened was painful and that they played a role in it. It looks like them having had some kind of growth experience in the time they were away. Not necessarily therapy, though therapy is wonderful, but something, some reflection, some willingness to understand themselves differently, some evidence that they sat with the discomfort of what happened instead of just waiting it out until the discomfort passed and the urge to reconnect returned. If they come back and they have nothing new to offer, if they cannot talk about what happened, if they minimize your pain, if they seem confused by why you would need anything to be different, that is information, really important information. It does not mean they are a bad person. It means they have not yet done the work that would make things different this time. And here is the gentle but necessary truth. An avoidant who has not done that work will cycle again. The pullback toward closeness will be followed by the retreat from closeness, because the retreat is not a choice they are making consciously. It is a response, a nervous system response to a threat that feels real even when it is not. And until they address the root of that response, they will keep repeating it, because that is how unexamined patterns work. So you look for change. You watch behavior over weeks, not days. You notice whether the relationship feels different or whether it just feels like the good early version of what it was before. Because the good early version of what it was before is not the version that caused you pain. The good early version is often magic. The question is what happens when the magic starts to feel like closeness and the closeness starts to activate the avoidant nervous system. Watch for that moment. Not with anxiety, not scanning the relationship for signs of disaster, but with clear and calm eyes. You are not waiting for them to fail. You are watching for evidence of who they actually are now. The third thing you need to do when an avoidant comes back is to know your own needs and say them out loud. This is where so many people in relationships with avoidance fall apart. Because if you have been in this relationship for any length of time, you have almost certainly learned to minimize your needs. Maybe not consciously. Maybe it happened so gradually you did not even notice. But over time, with an avoidant partner, most people learn to take up less space, to need less comfort, to not bring up the hard things, to be okay with less contact than they actually want, to not push for the emotional depth they actually crave. Because every time they reach for those things, something went wrong. The avoidant pulled back. The conversation went badly. The silence got louder. So you adapted, and your adaptations probably looked like maturity and independence and being low maintenance. And people probably told you how great you were for not being needy. But inside you were starving, slowly, quietly starving for the very things that make love feel like love. When an avoidant comes back, it is tempting to slip back into that adapted version of yourself because it feels safer. It feels like the version of you that they can handle. And you have missed them, and you do not want to scare them away again, so you make yourself small again, and you tell yourself it will be different this time, even though you are doing the exact same thing you did before. Do not do that. When an avoidant comes back, you have a rare window. A window where they are motivated, where they are feeling the loss of you, where they are more open than they usually are to understanding what you need. Use that window, not aggressively, not as an ultimatum in the first conversation, but over time with honesty and consistency, tell them what you need. I need consistency in communication. I need to know that when something feels hard for you, you will tell me instead of disappearing. I need us to be able to talk about our relationship without you shutting down. I need to feel like my emotional needs are as valid as yours. I need us to both be growing in this relationship and not just me holding it together. Say those things. Not all at once, not as a list of demands, but as an honest expression of who you are and what you require to feel loved and safe, and then pay very close attention to how they respond. Because an avoidant who is truly working on themselves will be uncomfortable with those conversations probably, because vulnerability is uncomfortable for them. But they will try. They will stay in the conversation even when it is hard. They will come back to it even when they need a moment to regulate. They will take your needs seriously even when they do not immediately know how to meet them. An avoidant who has not changed will dismiss those needs. They will make you feel like you are asking for too much. They will turn your needs into evidence of your insecurity or your issues. They will make the conversation about what is wrong with you for needing the things you need. And you will recognize that because you have probably felt it before. Your needs are not too much. Your needs are information about who you are and what kind of relationship will actually work for you. And you deserve a relationship that works for you. Not just one that you have survived. Knowing your needs and saying them out loud is also an act of self-respect. It is you choosing yourself even inside the relationship. It is you refusing to disappear again. And ironically, it is often the most attractive thing you can do with an avoidant who is genuinely trying to change, because they need a partner who has a self, who does not just conform to whatever the relationship requires, who shows up with their own edges and their own needs and their own clarity. That kind of partner actually helps an avoidant feel safer, because they are not afraid of engulfing you. You are clearly your own person. The fourth thing you need to do when an avoidant comes back is to decide from your values, not your feelings. This might be the hardest one of all four, because your feelings are real and they are loud and they are everywhere right now. And feelings deserve respect. But feelings are not always wisdom. Feelings are data, they are not decisions. When an avoidant comes back, your feelings will probably include relief and excitement and anger and grief and hope and fear and longing and resentment and joy all at the same time. That is a lot of data, and it is all happening simultaneously, and it is very difficult to make a clean decision from inside that storm. So you come back to your values. What do you actually believe about what you deserve in a relationship? What do you know when you are calm and clear and not in the middle of the emotional weather about what a healthy relationship looks like? What matters to you most in how you are treated? What are the non-negotiables? Not the unrealistic fairy tale expectations, but the real minimum requirements for you to feel safe and valued and genuinely loved. Maybe one of your values is honesty, and you know that in the time you were together, honesty was inconsistent. Communication broke down and nobody addressed it directly. Does coming back represent a commitment to honesty? Is there evidence of that? Maybe one of your values is consistency, and you know that inconsistency was one of the things that hurt you most. Is there any reason to believe consistency will be different this time? What has changed that would make that possible? Maybe one of your values is emotional presence, and you know that emotional presence was the thing you ached for most, the thing that was always just out of reach. Is there any evidence that they are more emotionally available than they were before? When you make decisions from your values, you make decisions you can live with. Decisions that align with who you are and who you are trying to become. Whether that decision is to give the relationship another real chance, or to say this is not something I can do again, the decision feels grounded. It does not feel reactive. It does not feel like something you will wake up tomorrow and regret in either direction. And this matters because the regret trap is real. People who take back an avoidant too quickly often spend months wondering if they made a mistake every time things get hard. People who refuse an avoidant too quickly often spend months wondering if they gave up on something real. Neither of those outcomes serves you. A decision made from values, from a clear and settled place, is one you can revisit without the floor dropping out from under you. Now let us talk about something that does not get said enough in these conversations, something that is uncomfortable but important. Sometimes the right answer is to take them back. Sometimes avoidant does come back having genuinely done the work, having had the kind of reckoning that actually changes a person, having sat with the loss and the shame and the recognition of their own patterns and done something real about it. And when that is the case, giving the relationship another chance can be one of the most beautiful things you ever do, because growth is real, change is real. People genuinely can become more capable of love than they once were. The goal here is not to make you afraid of avoidance, or to tell you that every person with avoidant attachment is beyond hope. That would be cruel and it would be wrong. The goal is to help you see clearly, to help you make choices that come from your own power rather than from your fear of losing them or your relief that they returned. Because here is the real danger in this situation. The danger is not that you take them back. The danger is that you take them back unconsciously. That you take them back because the pull was too strong to resist and the hope was too beautiful to let go of, and you never actually stop to ask yourself what you need and what has changed and what you are worth. The danger is that you repeat the cycle not as a conscious choice but as an emotional reflex. And 3 months from now or 6 months from now or 2 years from now, you are back in the same pain. Only this time it is compounded by the knowledge that you saw this coming and chose it anyway. That is what these 4 things are designed to prevent. Not the taking back, not the loving again, just the unconsciousness. The sleepwalking back into something painful because the familiarity of the pain felt safer than the uncertainty of something else. Let us also talk about what you do for yourself throughout all of this, regardless of what you decide. You need support right now. Not just intellectual support, not just information about attachment theory, though that is genuinely helpful. You need relational support. people in your life who know you and love you and can reflect back to you who you are when you are not sure yourself. Because being in a complicated relationship with an avoidant can gradually erode your sense of self. It can make you doubt your perceptions. It can make you feel like the problem, the needy one, the dramatic one, the one who just cannot be satisfied. And if you spend enough time feeling that way, you start to believe it. You are not the problem. Having needs is not a problem. Wanting emotional presence and consistent connection is not a problem. Those are human needs. Fundamental, legitimate, beautiful human needs. And the fact that someone else is not able to consistently meet them does not mean you were wrong to have them. So let people who love you remind you of that. Let a therapist help you untangle the story you have been telling yourself about what you deserve. Let your own history, your own moments of clarity, remind you of who you are outside of this relationship. And do things that make you feel like yourself, whatever those things are. The things that remind you that your life is full and valuable and interesting even when this relationship is complicated. Because part of what makes avoidant relationships so consuming is that when the connection is inconsistent, we tend to organize our whole emotional life around the moments of connection and the moments of absence. Everything else fades into the background. We stop investing in our own lives because we are so focused on the relationship. And that is one of the ways we lose ourselves in this. Your life outside this relationship matters. Your own growth matters. Your own joy matters. Not as a tactic to make yourself more attractive or more mysterious. Just because you are a person and your life belongs to you, and you deserve to be living it fully even while you navigate this. There is something else worth naming about the experience of loving an avoidant that is rarely talked about honestly. The grief of it, even if this avoidant comes back, and even if you decide to give things another try, there is grief in having loved someone who was not able to be fully present. There is grief in all the times you reached for them and found distance. There is grief in the version of the relationship you imagined and did not quite get. There is grief in the parts of yourself you shrunk or changed or swallowed to make the relationship work. That grief is real and it deserves space. You might be angry. You might be sad. You might feel both at the same time in a way that makes no logical sense. You might feel relief when they come back and grief that it took this long and fear that it will happen again and hope that it will not, all inside the same hour. That is not confusion. That is just the reality of having loved someone with avoidant attachment. It is complicated territory, and your feelings about it are complicated too. Let them be complicated. Do not try to flatten them into something simpler. What you are going through, this experience of loving someone who is capable of real connection but who retreats from it out of fear, is one of the lonelier experiences a person can have. Because from the outside it can look fine. The relationship exists. The person cares. The moments of connection are real and beautiful. So other people do not always understand why it is so hard. But you know because you have lived in the spaces between the connection. In the uncertainty and the silence and the quiet, desperate hope that this time it will be different. And you are not weak for having stayed as long as you did. You are not foolish for having hoped. You are not broken for still caring. You are human, doing the complicated, messy, profound work of loving someone in a world where most people are carrying wounds from their past into their present relationships. The question now is not whether you were wrong to love them. The question is what you do with what you know now. And what you know now, having sat with these 4 things, is this. You pause and you get grounded before you respond. You look for real evidence of change, not just words. You know what your needs are, and you say them clearly, and you watch how they are received. And you make your decision from your values, from what you know about yourself and what you deserve, not from the flood of emotion in the moment. That is how you take your power back. Not by being cold, not by being unavailable, not by punishing them for the past. You take your power back by being so rooted in yourself that whatever happens next, you can handle it. You will not be swept away. You will not lose yourself. You will not wake up a year from now wondering how you got here again. You will be present, clear, grounded, decided. And that version of you, that clear and grounded version, is the one who can make a choice you can actually live with. Because at the end of all of this, that is what this is really about. not about outsmarting an avoidant or winning the relationship or getting them to love you the way you need to be loved through some technique or strategy. It is about you. It is about you knowing yourself well enough and valuing yourself enough to navigate this situation in a way that honors who you are. You have been waiting for them to come back. But the more important thing is that while they were gone, you do not lose yourself in the waiting. And now that they are here, you do not lose yourself in the returning either. You stay yourself. Warm and present and clear and boundaried and real. And from that place, you make the choices that are yours to make. That is what it looks like when you handle this well. Not perfectly, not without pain, but with integrity and self-awareness and genuine care for yourself that matches the care you have always been so willing to give to others. You deserve that care too. Not eventually. Not after they prove themselves. Not as a reward for doing this right now. You deserve it right now.